it is time. We get to look at the Hugo long list this year, and the numbers actually make sense. There's only a tiny bit of drama. There's just like normal stuff that annoys me to the point where it's so traditional it doesn't annoy me anymore if I just like recalibrate my expectations. But yeah, I actually also watched the Hugo Awards kind of live yesterday with people in my Discord, and it was really fun. Like, I thought it was actually a really engaging award presentation, because sometimes I think award shows can just like go on for a bit, but I really liked most of the speeches. I thought it was a good time. I enjoyed it. So if you want to rewatch that, I recommend, if you care about this very niche little part of fandom. I mean, probably you do because you're here. So what we're gonna do is go through the long list, see what didn't quite make it onto the short list, see what won, by how much. I'll give you my opinions when I have opinions. I guess elephant in the room, the controversy. There were, I believe, 377 votes that were disqualified because it was very obvious that these were not made by real people. I think they were saying that like the first letter of the last name kept getting changed or something like that. And they did state, I'll link the Blue Sky thread or whatever the thread was down below, that this did affect whoever it was from getting first place, but I don't think they listed the category. So regardless, whoever won all of these categories, they would have maybe not won one of these categories because of these votes. I don't know. But it was fairly clear to them that these were not real votes. Otherwise, there were 3,431 electronic and 5 paper votes that were counted. And actually, I really like this packet because this packet, so far of all of the long lists I've looked at, has gone over how voting works the best out of anything. So I'm going to have this linked in the description, and I've talked about this in other videos in the past. But if you're just like, I still don't get how the weighted nomination thing works or ranked voting or whatever, read this document. This document will answer all your nerdy math questions. So let us get into it. Let's start at the bottom of the sheet. Would that be more interesting, and work our way up to novel? I have no idea. Let's just do that. And that way also I can get my opinions about the Lodestar out of the way early. Okay, Astounding Award for Best New Writer. The special thing to note about this is not a Hugo, but it's, as the winner kind of pointed out, it's the only non-Hugo award voted on exclusively by Hugo voters. But it's sponsored by Del Rey. And this was Astounding Awards. You usually only get nominated for 2 years of eligibility, and it includes like short fiction and stuff, so it can be kind of hard to nominate for because you're like, you maybe didn't know that they wrote a short story for Clark's World at some point. I'm probably pronouncing their name wrong because I always say Sharon J. Zhao, but I think I was hearing it differently on the award show. But they were allowed to do a third year because they were unfairly disqualified last year. If you've somehow been under a rock and haven't seen any of that Hugo drama, I have 2 videos on it, and the internet has many videos on it. So you can go check those out. But they were able to win, and they won by a fair few votes. Like, between them and second place was like 150 votes, which is not like inconsequential. Second place went to Montekill Black Goose, who we will talk about again in a bit. Third place was Sunyin Dean, who wrote a book, The Book Eaters. I think it was The Book Eaters. I didn't finish that book, but I did like what it was doing. And then the 5th and 6th place, I didn't read enough, so I feel like I'm missing a 4th place person here. I don't know where it is, so let's see. 2nd place, 3rd place. Yeah, this was one that was tied. Okay, 3rd place was tied between Sunyin Dean and Ai Jiang, and that's why my brain, like, literally tied, 372 for each. That's, like, very precise. But, I don't know Hannah Kanner or M. Liu, although people brought up M. Liu last time. And on the short list, names that I recognize, Kritika Rao, who wrote the that book with the really pretty plant magic and stuff like with South Asian, the author of The Santa Bright Doors, the author of Battle Drums and The Final Strife is on here, and Gabriela Romero La Cruz, who I believe wrote The Sun and the Void, so not bad. I never really know who to nominate for these things. Now, the one award that's like our normal drama, and I even be mad at it because it's just so normal at this point. Like, I really don't expect us as adults voting for the Hugo to understand what a young adult book is anymore. But it's almost always a Del Rey book that ends up being classified as young adult when it's not, like, technically published by a young adult imprint. And like what I mean by that is in the United States, if you're published as a young adult book, you're usually $5 to $10 cheaper. than an adult book. Like, that just is usually the facts. So in the United States, that's how you can tell. I know it's different in different countries, but the majority of the voters for the Hugos are from continental US. So those are the people. And of course, Del Rey has a bunch of favorite authors. So authors, like readers who are looking on shelves, they're going to see books published by Del Rey on the adult shelves. And they'll be like, oh, I should try this out. And then it'll read like YA. And yeah, here we are. So To Shape a Dragon's Breath is what won. Only by like 40-some votes. The other one was Naomi Kritzer, who is a Hugo darling. And honestly, like, we're going to talk about her a bit more. I love her. I mean, I love Catfishing on Catnet. I'm not mad. And also, having read Catfishing on Catnet and Chaos on Catnet, which were both published by Young Adult Imprints, they are both young adult books, and I love them dearly. So that was really close, actually. To Shake a Dragon's Breath, I think, also won for young adult for the Nebula, and that's a bunch of authors just deciding what is and isn't young adult. So, like, crossover appeal, you know, it is, you know, like I said, at this point, I'm just exhausted by it. It's never going to make sense. And also, like, most of the time, the things that are put on this list, like I said, are these the books young adults are actually reading right now? Probably not. It's probably not a good metric for it. The Ignite Awards, I know last year for middle grade, did something really interesting. I don't know if they did it for young adult, but they do a juror situation first, and then they have public voting. And in that juror situation, they select people in the age groups to nominate books, which I think is probably a better process of figuring out what is, quote unquote, the best outstanding in this age range. But, you know, who am I to say? Other books, though, Sinister Booksellers of Bath, that's Garth Nix, Charlie Jane Anders, Darling. P. Djeli Clark actually did have a middle grade book that it made this list. That was cool. Frances Harding I know of because my friend Judith loves her books, but I have never read them myself. And then in the short list, there was Chuck Tingle. I did not know Camp Damascus was considered young adult at all, but cool. The Library of Broken Worlds, which I just read recently for the Ursula K. Le Guin, that ended up there. A Study in Drowning. Ava Reed, I'm pretty sure, is an adult author. So once again, I don't know what we're doing here. Divine Rivals makes sense. And we were all kind of being like, why wasn't it on the short list? The Stolen Heir, Holly Black. Yeah, okay. So, you know, there's that. Second place was the Naomi Kritzer book. Third place was Booksellers. Fourth place, Unraveler, which is the Frances Harding. And then we had the P. Djeli Clark and then the Charlie Jane Anders. So, moving on, we have Best Fan Artist. They just showed the art for this. I don't have many opinions about it. And then we have Fan Writer. So this was also someone who was disqualified last year. And they won by about 110 votes. I don't know anything about fan writers other than this writer was disqualified last year and won this year. And he had like a fun speech. Now for Fancast. This was cute. Octothorpe, actually one of the people on the team wore like this octopus headdress, or maybe it was like a jellyfish. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the costume. Oh, this was a very close category, 294 to 287. So that's cool. And also, you know, they said some stuff in their speech. Like, a lot of people took opportunity to, like, bring up stuff about Palestine and bring up stuff about the riots in the UK. I thought that was interesting. This one in particular brought up stuff about Neil Gaiman very bluntly. And I thought, wow, in that room, that's probably, like, that took some guts, considering the allegations that have been against him and how kind of loved he is in the community in general. You know, like, that's tough to do. So, and then we have Best Fanzine, Nerds of a Feather. Was Nerds of the Feather or the Octothorpe that did that? See, part of my brain wants to say it was Octothorpe because of, like, the jellyfish thing, but I might have gotten them flipped. So, on the off chance I got them flipped, it was one of these, and I don't remember which one it was, because I get all these categories very confused because I am not part of this part of our fandom as often, but Nerds of a Feather one. Now we're into semi-prozine, and this was, like, in my head, a huge upset, because it's almost always Uncanny Magazine. Always. I mean, an Uncanny Magazine publishes great stuff, so it's not like it's not earned, but it's just kind of boring, okay? It's like how, I think for years, Modern Family won the Emmy for a sitcom, and it's like, sure, but this is boring. So Strange Horizons won by 6 votes. So that was kind of fun. That was exciting to me. I was like, ooh, an upset. Weird, you know, in that weird nerdy way. But second place was Uncanny, and then it was Faya, which I do like Faya. I haven't read Escape Pod, but it's good. And then Choreo, I really like. So, you know, the semi-prozines are fun. And then we got Professional Artists, which I wish they'd post like the art with it, because like These are just names. I don't know who did what cover art while I'm staring at the list. But I mean, they all do stunning work. It's also really hard to nominate for. That's a really hard category because you have to like, to be professional, they had to have actually had commissions for a certain number of art pieces, and that can be just kind of hard to find out. Best editor, long form. This was really funny during like the stream because there were a lot of technical difficulties, but the person on stage handled it like a champ. And they didn't have a card either because it was supposed to be, I think, read by the person whose video never got shown. But the winner is actually one of my favorite editors, or at least a lot of my favorite books are edited by her, and her speech was so touching. But she also just kept being like, if this is true, like, if it's not, just ignore me. Just like, no, it's true, you won. And she's so elegant. Like, her speech was really good. It was really touching. Really loved it. So, Rachi Chen, love you. Love your books. Good job editing. Hope you keep doing it. Short form was Neil Clark, who I believe is the editor for Clark's World, which is a magazine. And I've seen him on Twitter a lot because he was like very vocal about being anti-Amazon's change in subscription platform for the magazine. And also he always really published the data of how many bots were sending in short stories. And he brought that up in his speech. And he's like, also, why are people doing this? Like, short form fiction is not where you make money. Like, it's just where us nerds read short stories. Like, it's not like a money-making part of the fandom. If there even really is, there's like 5 people, I think, who make a legit amount of money in fantasy and science fiction. It is not the short story authors, you know? Like, so his speech was good. And let's see, moving on to best game or interactive work. This is a new category. Shocking, literally nobody. Baldur's Gate 3 won, and it won, I think, by the most of any category. Like, everything else, you know, there was some good spread here and there. Baldur's Gate 3 won by, it's looking like 360 votes. That's what I'm reading here. And, like, you know, that's a lot. That's a lot of votes. And then Zelda was second place, and I don't know the rest of them. So, that kind of tracks. And now we are into the short form and long form, and they had presenters for this that were really fun. They had some good personality, because especially for like short form, who won short form? It was The Last of Us. It's like, you know, and we tried, but Pedro, he was busy, so I'll just take this, you know. Like, it was funny. Like, I thought the awards were handled with a lot of good humor, some good writing. So The Last of Us, the episode Long Time, which I believe is the episode that when you have heard of Last of Us, is the one like with the couple and just kind of seeing their life during the apocalypse. I believe that's the one, and that makes sense to me. Oh, but it only won by, like, I don't know. I can't do math on the fly. 18 votes? Second place was Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Those Old Scientists. I have no idea. I don't think that's the musical episode. I don't watch the show. But there's another one of those episodes that's called Subspace Rhapsody, and if I was a betting woman, I would say that one was the musical episode, and not Those Old Scientists. I do need to watch that show. I just want to watch more Star Trek almost always, and I just never do. So, you know. Those Old Scientists did get second place, though. And then Glorious Purpose, which was for Loki, got third. The Giggle, which was a Doctor Who episode, got fourth. And which is interesting because, like, of the David Tennant specials, it healed me the most. But I think the best of those episodes was the middle one. It just was like classic Doctor Who horror, but that's just my opinion. So Subspace Rhapsody, and then Wild Blue Yonder, which, what was that? Maybe, that was the one I really liked, Wild Blue Yonder. The one that got last place. That's the one I really liked. Granted, all those David Tennant specials, if you are a David Tennant Doctor fan, are amazing, healing, so good. Okay, Best Dramatic Presentation Long Form. This was another category I really liked, and this was because Dungeons & Dragons won. And I just think Dungeons & Dragons, that movie really represents, like, the best campy fantasy has to offer. Like, if you're just going campy, tropey, adventure fantasy time, that's just such a good representation of it. And it's fun if you play Dungeons & Dragons. You'll see so many Easter eggs of certain cantrips and spells you've always tried to work into a scenario. And, like, my husband doesn't play Dungeons & Dragons, and he just had a fun time because it was just a fun flick. So I thought, honestly, like, there were a lot of other things here that are more award-worthy. Like, Poor Things, probably a more award-winning movie. Barbie, maybe. I didn't like Barbie as much as everyone else, especially, like, in hindsight. It was fine. And, like, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I think it just suffers from quote-unquote middle book syndrome. Not for me, but, like, that seems to be the general thing. But 49 votes between Spider-Man and D&D. Spider-Man does get second place. Barbie gets third place. Nimona, I still haven't seen, but I've heard amazing things about, so I should probably put that on our list. Poor Things is a weird time, and it's laughable to me that it's just on Disney Plus. Like, the idea that a family might think that that's family watching, because I think some streaming platforms get, like, a reputation for being certain types of things. And Poor Things is not family watching. At least, unless you and your family are really comfortable with uncomfortable things, which is totally fine. I just don't find that to be the norm in North America. At least that's my perception. And I don't even know what The Wandering Earth 2 is. I think that was the Chinese work that was translated. All right, moving on to best related work. We're just going to pass over it just because I don't know anything about related works ever. It was The City on Mars, which I was kind of interested in after hearing their speech and things like that. But I don't know much about its project, but a lot of people in the comments had a lot of good things to say about it. All right, and then we got Best Graphic Story or Comic, Saga 11 won, which I don't think is that surprising, followed by The Three Body Problem. No, it wasn't followed by The Three Body Problem. It's always weird how the voting can change, because if you look at the first table, you'll see, you'd think this other one would be second place, but after everything is re-weighted, which again, read the packet if you want to know how the maths. But the second place is actually The Amazons. It's Wonder Woman Historia. And then it's Beowulf, and then it's The Three Body Problem and stuff like that. So, yeah. Because it basically takes everyone's, like, I think, second vote who voted for Saga 11 and re-ranks it in when you're trying to figure out second place and then third place and all that stuff. Okay, best series. So now we're back to books. Back to books. I think the rest of this is all book-related, and we'll have a little more, theories. I actually was pretty happy with what won. And this is the Imperial Rock by Anne Leckie. I had read Translation State this year, and I actually really liked it, even though I was very fine on Ancillary Justice. But, like, as a series, as a project, I do feel it's, like, sci-fi award-winning fantasy series. And it won by, like, a fair bit, like 500 some votes. The second place is Final Architecture by Tchaikovsky. And then Laundry Files, which I always forget what that one is, but I think it's like kind of sort of like If You Want Dresden, but not with Dresden's headspace sort of series. And then October Day by Shauna Maguire, Universe of Shuya, which I love those covers so much. I have read one novella by that author, and I don't think she's for me, but I want her to be for me because the covers are fantastic. And then Last Binding, which is like the fantasy romance series. Now, on the long list, things that made it craft sequence, which I believe Arcady Martin recommended it recently on a list. So I have the first book floating around my library, holds, purgatory, where I keep pushing things back. But the second thing that almost made it, not quite almost, but within, if 30 more people had voted for it, it would have been on the short list. And that's The Rook and the Rose, which it brings me joy. I do think Hugo voters would like the Rook and the Rose trilogy. So this is me starting my whole, hey, the Burning Kingdoms trilogy, the one with, the Jasmine Throne and the Oleander Sword, that's going to be eligible next year, and people should read it so they're not like, oh, well, I haven't read it, so I couldn't nominate it. No, read it. Nominate it. Let's move on. Let's get Tasha Suri on the list. Saints of Steel, T. Kingfisher, Niveau, Singing Hill Cycle, Murderbot, Drowning Empire. Man, I've read a lot of these. Encrypted, which is, I think, the other one that's popular for urban fantasy by Shauna Maguire besides The October Days. I don't know Green Man. I don't know Unstoppable. I don't know Rivers of London. Or is Rivers of London the one? I have no idea what Laundry Files is then, if the Rivers of London is the one I was thinking about before. Regardless, I'm pretty happy, like I said. Especially Rook and the Rose, I feel like it made it so close. So close. All right, next up, Best Short Story. Naomi Kritzer won this one with Better Living Through Algorithms. Had a really lovely speech for it. I still need to read it. I can't remember where I need to read it. The second place, though, is How to Raise a Kraken in Your Bathtub, which that title has been everywhere. And I've been wanting to read it based off the title. This is P. Jelly Clark. A lot of these I need to get around to reading because I think they're really fascinating. I don't think I recognize anything on the short list, but this is also where a lot of people, because when you pay for the membership of one con, you get to nominate for the next, and a lot of Chinese SFF readers, I think we're really trying to promote the works that they're really proud of, because they really also were not represented in our Hugos last year because things. Okay, novelette, we've got for first place another Naomi Kritzer, who, like I said, Hugo darling, but also a gem, another great speech. The Year Without Sunshine. Second place was One Man's Treasure by Sarah Pinsker. I still need to read that Sarah Pinsker short story collection. I don't think that's in there though, but still need to read it. And then I don't really recognize the rest. Yeah, I think some people had been reading them in the main anthology translation that had been using a lot of these. Like, I think there was, like, one translated anthology with a lot of Chinese works that were being, like, pulled from for a lot of the novelettes and short stories and novellas. Novella category. Ugh. This could have been a stronger category. Like, I love the speech that was given by T. Kingfisher about sea cucumbers, and T. Kingfisher is a gem. Like, I love hearing her talk. I love T. Kingfisher. Thornhedge is not, like, that great of a book compared to, like, well, other novellas on this and other T. Kingfisher in general. It won by 200. Second place is Mammoths at the Gate. Third place is Seeds of Mercury, which is in that translation collection. And then fourth place is Mimicking of Known Successes, which would have been my vote if I voted this year, which I did not. But I think Mimicking of Known Successes was a stupid strong novella. Rose House with fifth place, which honestly I'm kind of glad about because, like, I really didn't like it. And I don't know, Life Does Not Allow Us to Meet. I think I heard a lot of mixed reviews on both translated novellas in my Discord, but I think that one was the one that was disliked the most. And when I look at the long list, Untethered Skies, which would have been my vote over Mimicking of Known Successes, was so close. 12 votes. 12. Ugh. Would have loved it. There was a Shauna Maguire. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even realize that a Shauna Maguire had not made the list. The Lost in the Moment and Found. And then we've got And Put Away Childish Things by Adrian Tchaikovsky. There's an Indra Da. Yeah, the rest I don't recognize, but I was just like, Untethered Sky. So close. So close. Like, that's like the ideal type of story to put in a novella space. That would have probably been my vote. And now, here we are. We're ready for my novel reactions. And what's very interesting is, like, I really only read the winner because of a different award, and I was truly just thrown off by its cover. Because its cover just didn't make me think I would like it. I don't really know why, other than, like, usually people market their books in a way that's going to capture the attention of the readership they want, and this one made me feel like I wasn't that readership. I've never liked people on covers for sci-fi space operas like this. Like, it just never been my thing. But Some Desperate Glory won, and I really like it, and I think it would have been my vote. Because I have actually read everything except for Starter Villain by accident at this point, for different projects and everything like that. But Some Desperate Glory is my favorite blend of entertaining sci-fi, and especially because it's military sci-fi, and I usually just like military sci-fi. But regardless, entertainment, tropey, genre fiction, with some new conventions that are kind of slightly subversive on those tropes, and then with themes that you can engage with surface level, but it's also like it creeps up on you. And that's what happened to me with that book. I think it really snuck up on me. And that's my blend of how I like to enjoy art. So for me and my tastes, really good. And let's see, second place is Translation State, which would have been my second place. Like, this year I feel in line. I feel in line with the best books. I mean, I'm not sure if I would have nominated these books, but as we stand. Translation State, like I said, it retroactively made me like that world so much more because it was so character driven. Third place is Amina Al-Sarafi. I probably wouldn't put it that high up. I think I might have put one book before it, but, like, I liked it. It's fine. Witch King's fourth place. Saint of Bright Doors is fifth place. And I think that's the one I would have put before Amina, and then Amina Al-Sarafi. And then I guess, unless probably Witch King, because I don't think it just doesn't not deserve an award. I just didn't like the book. And then I haven't read Starter Villain. Nor do I really plan to, but Starter Villain got sixth place. System Collapse was, the nomination was declined by Martha Wells. And let's see. Let us look. And then Cosmo Wings was on the shortlist, but was just ineligible due to the 2024 publication, so I think that means it could be nominated for next year. And The Terraformers was the first thing on the long list that could have been eligible with 3 more votes. Honestly, I don't like that book, so I'm not that heartbroken about that. Starling House, it was high up here, which kind of makes sense. People like Alex E. Harrow in the Hugo space, but, like, it was a fine book. T.J. Klune's In the Lives of Puppets. I haven't read it, but I've only heard okay reviews. I haven't read Ian McDonald. The Future by Naomi Alderman. I've heard okay things about. And then He Who Drowned the World by Shelley Parker Chan. I've heard, like, nothing about. But considering they won the Astounding Award, I feel like just Tor was not pushing that sequel. I don't know. Like, I felt like no marketing for it compared to the first book. And just, like, no marketing support in general. And then The Water Outlaws and Hello Beautiful. And I've tried The Water Outlaws, and I DNF'd them. So yeah, in general, this was fine. This was okay. Normal amount of drama. Kind of annoying that they had to, cut 300 some votes, because it's just like, really, guys, we don't need more controversy. But I liked the award shows. I liked hearing the speeches. I liked live reacting to it in my Discord with my friends. Like, it was a good time. And, I was just pleasantly surprised that, like, most of the time the thing I would vote for to win doesn't win. So it's like to have some desperate glory be my dark horse of like, I really didn't expect to like this book. And it's also the winner. And like, yeah, I kind of agree with that. But I think it also just does highlight to me that last year was a weird year in publishing for me and my tastes in the SFF space. And I'm hoping this year will be a bit stronger. And I think it already kind of is. We'll see. Let me know what you think of these results. Any opinions you have on any of the categories. And otherwise, if you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, rocket ship, because the Hugos. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.